Hello, artists. So over the course of the last couple of days, we've been working on studying some advanced drawing techniques. And without going into all of them, we've touched upon a few like hatching and cross-hatching for value, using a coffee wash to tone paper before we draw on top of it. We've looked at things like visual framing, the idea of boxing in part of a focal point so that it draws more attention to that, and then changing media outside of that box, and a few others, which again, we're not going to go into here, but things like charcoal reduction as well. So now we're to the point where you're all working probably on some kind of toned paper. I would say 95% of you are working on toned paper, meaning the paper is not white. It's been toned or valued in some way, either came that way because you chose that color, or you've done something to paper with coffee or charcoal and it's toned. And that's the technical term for it. So let's talk about adding value on a piece of toned paper. So when you work on toned paper, or anytime you're applying value on something that already has a value, you want to think of the paper itself as a value. So I brought up my friend here, the value scale finder. And if you remember back to your basic drawing skills, we have always used a minimum of 6 values, meaning white all the way to absolute black. So there are 5 here at the bottom and 5 more at the top. So if you think about the toned paper, it already exists in a value that's pretty close to this number 5 value here. Even though there are 10 values on this one and we've only used about 6 of them, you could argue that the paper runs in a value that's close to one of these two tones. So what that means, and how you should translate that, is that when you go to shade and you go to use your gradated or leveled pencils, you could actually only use several of your pencils. So in my case, in my vine drawing, I'm actually using a B pencil, I'm using an H pencil, and then I'm using a 6B. And honestly, I would probably use something in the middle, probably a 2 or a 3B to sort of help me. So there's a 3B. When I go to add value to this paper, I am not, repeat, not going to add a value that is representative of probably about a 3 or a 4 value on the value scale. I'm going to leave the paper blank. So if you look on this leaf here, there are actual areas that appear blank or vacant, right? Those areas are already in existence with a value. We just talked about that. So I've left them blank. In addition, not only did I leave the paper blank because it is itself a value, and in this case, it's probably about a 3 or a 4 or a 5 value, I then applied white because, of course, since I'm using tone paper, I don't have white value. If I look at my photo reference, there are areas that are very, very light, bordering on white. If I exclude the background, sort of the noise from the classroom, you can see on many of these tomatillo plants, there's areas that border on being white. And you can see on the leaf structure that's here, even the stem has parts or elements that look almost white. So I applied white colored pencil in those areas to represent, obviously, the whitest value. Now, most important in this whole lesson, other than to know that the paper is already a value and you can apply white because you don't have that as a value, is that the white colored pencil and the gray graphite should never come in contact with each other. More often than not, if I try to mix white colored pencil and graphite, I will get this sort of ugly gray mud color, and it is not helpful to describing the form, the 3D quality of the leaves or the tomatillos. So if you notice, and it is very hard, I'm going to zoom in really close. If you look at my leaf in this picture, and I apologize for the glare, but if you look at my picture, at no point does the white colored pencil come in contact or overlap with the graphite. It might come close, and in many cases, I had to sharpen my white colored pencil very tightly so that you could see just really thin little lines. But my white and my graphite do not overlap. Therefore, when you step back from the image, I'll pull you back. When you step back from the image and you look at it a second time, you can see that it clearly looks like a light or white value. There is the blank paper, which represents a 3, a 4, or a 5 value. And then, of course, I've still applied my darkest value, my black, and my step back from black, sort of these sort of charcoal grays, using my darkest pencil, my 6 or my 8B pencil. So that's pretty much it. Just remember the tone paper is doing a lot of the work for you. You don't have to put value on the entire thing. Use the paper as a superpower. Allow it to do its work. And don't forget that you want to represent that whitest or lightest area with a white colored pencil or a white piece of charcoal, but they should never mix. I can't wait to see your results.